also got another government voice with us, Jyotiraditya Scindia, joining us. Mr. Scindia, of course, you're going to say it is a great budget, but in terms of the fact that it was supposed to deliver a lot more on reforms, I remember talking to you in Davos. At that time, you said, wait a couple of months, wait for the UP elections, wait for the budget. Both those events have happened. We're still not convinced that we're going to move forward on the reform process. This budget doesn't seem to be a game changer on that front.
Well, I think what we need to understand is that the budget is an episodic process. It's an episodic event, whereas what we need to do is we need to follow the process. And I think the process unfolds throughout the whole fiscal. I think it's a very pragmatic budget. It's a budget that is very, very focused with its feet on the ground, trying to deliver growth, pumping the demand growth of the economy, ensuring that you have equitable growth, inclusive growth, at the same time looking at very key issues like infrastructure, malnutrition, making sure that the delivery mechanism is harnessed, huge outlays to the social sector, health up by almost 10%, education by 21.7%, ICDS, malnutrition, women and child welfare schemes up by almost 45%, and at the same time looking at enlarging the service tax net, so that 60% of the economy, which is represented by the service sector, actually contributes as well, looking at 18,000 crores coming in from there. And therefore, a very pragmatic budget which will yield growth in this financial year to 7.6%, at the same time rein in the fiscal deficit from 5.9% to 5.1% by the end of this year.
All right, reining in the fiscal deficit again, not many are convinced on that number and how he intends to do that. There is that, at least that intent there, but in terms of actual implementation, there are doubts being raised. But Mr. Scindia, we're looking at a very weak government right now. This budget coming in the midst of a political crisis where we're not even sure about the fate of our railway minister just because he took a bold decision to increase fares. Give us your reaction as to the ability of this government to carry forward the reform process. And that's perhaps the reason why we're seeing markets react negatively now. They're not convinced that this government can deliver on some of those bold reform moves.
Well, I don't think the market on budget day is a reflection of how good or how bad the budget has been. The Economic Times had a snippet today which talked about how the market responded on budget day and how it's responded by the end of the year. And in 8 or 9 years of the last UPA government, the market has returned much more throughout the year than on the particular budget day itself. So I think you've got to see this as a process. So I don't have any value attributed or weightage attributed to what happens to the Sensex on budget day. But having said that, let me say this, that the UPA government is extremely committed to fulfilling its full term. We have the numbers, as I've mentioned many times, at 317, including the outside support of the BSP and the SP. And we are committed to economic reform, but economic reform with a human face and with an inclusive growth agenda. We have delivered extremely high rates of growth over the last 7 to 8 years that we've been in government. The last two fiscals have been 8.4%. This fiscal will be 6.9%. And I think we've delivered to the people of India in terms of a new economic inclusive growth agenda, which was not the case prior to 2003 when we came into government. So whether you take the schemes of Rural Employment Guarantee Program, Bharat Nirman, across the board, infrastructure, social welfare schemes that have increased the propensity of every Indian to be able to contribute to national growth.
You know, one of the criticisms we've been hearing in this program so far is that this budget really has no direction. And people say it falls into the category which your government is being accused of policy paralysis. What is in this budget that says, no, there are policies happening, that something big is going to happen?
Well, if you look at the 3 or 4 important issues that have been identified in this budget, Pranoy, and this is something that you were alluding to over the last couple of days on your channel as well, the very fact that you're looking at fiscal consolidation, the very fact that the finance minister has on budget days said that I want to limit subsidy to 2% of GDP, longer term 1.7% of GDP. The very fact that for infrastructure, whereas 30,000 crores of tax-free bonds have been issued last year, we are looking at doubling that to 60,000 crores across various sectors. The very fact that pilot projects have been instituted to ensure that the delivery mechanism is much more robust And we have seen results of that in many districts where actually a reimbursement system is taking over a direct cash transfer system. And I think that's being rolled out across 200 districts. I think all of these are very, very important steps for the future of our country, to making sure that we stop leakages, to make sure that we have a much more efficient delivery system wherein the actual money reaches the beneficiaries who are entitled to this benefit.
Okay, I've got to ask you about that cartoon behind you. It's a lovely cartoon. You've got your right hand raised with a victory sign and your left hand behind your back. What is their left? Are their fingers crossed?
Well, I think, Pranoy, you know me long enough that what you see is what you get. So that's about it.
No, I want to see that left hand as well next time. But thanks very much indeed.